staying with us here on Republic TV. Anytime now, the Aam Aadmi Party will be addressing a news conference on the big story broken by Republic. Sucharita is joining us live on the burning question on Satyendar Jain. Sucharita, over to you.
Thank you so much, Niranjan. Burning question, and the burning question tonight, the Aam Aadmi Party is now throwing a full-blown attack on the BJP. The ED has arrested Satyendar Jain, and this is the big news, that news story that we're tracking on the burning question.
Burning Question, presented by Nissan Magnite, powered by Amity University.
The Delhi Health Minister Satyendar Jain arrested by Enforcement Directorate today. The ED alleged that Satyendar Jain was involved in Hawala transactions with Kolkata-based company in 2016-17. The ED has attached properties worth 4 crore 81 lakhs owned by the Aam Aadmi Party leader and his family 2 months ago. AAP alleges political vendetta, says the Himachal election in charge is being targeted ahead of the elections. Congress backs ED action, demands the resignation of Minister Satyendar Jain. The Delhi Health Minister Satyendar Jain has been arrested by the Enforcement Directorate in a money laundering case. Assets worth 4.81 crores linked to the Aam Aadmi Party minister's family were attached by the ED in a disproportionate assets case in 2 months ago this year.
Arvind Kejriwal's key minister Satyendar Jain has been arrested by the Enforcement Directorate in an alleged money laundering case. The ED has alleged that the Delhi Health Minister was involved in Hawala transactions with a Kolkata-based company in the 2015-2016 period. The arrest comes nearly 2 months after properties worth 4.81 crore rupees owned by the Aam Aadmi Party leader and his family were attached by the Enforcement Directorate. The arrest comes nearly 2 months after properties worth 4.81 crore rupees owned by the Aam Aadmi Party leader and his family were attached by the Enforcement Directorate. This comes as another jolt to the Aam Aadmi Party, already under fire over the Sidhu Moosewala murder in Punjab. While the party defends its minister, will the Kejriwal government be able to come clean on Satyendar Jain again? Let's debate.
And let me introduce my guests on the burning question tonight. I am joined with the chief editor of Goa Chronicles, Savio Rodrigues. Prakash M. Swamy, senior journalist, joins us on the burning question. Karan Verma, author and political analyst, is with us. Abbas Haider, national spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, joins us. Political analyst Professor Monojit Mandal is joining us on burning question. Advocate and political analyst Kapil Madan joins us on the show, and so does Dr. Suman C. Raman. Thank you so much for joining us on the burning question. And let me begin with you, Savio. Aam Aadmi Party very clearly saying this is political vendetta. They're trying to target Satyendar Jain because the Himachal elections are due.
Well, I expect Aam Aadmi and any political party to take that stand, because when there is a criminality against an MLA, the first thing they do is cry for political vendetta. But you have to get into the facts of the case. And in this case, there are pretty interesting facts of how Satyendar Jain has actually used his office when he was in a part of the government office to actually accrue benefits to him and his family members. So it's a very interesting case. Now, whether it's Aam Aadmi Party or not, the sad part, it's Aam Aadmi Party, because the point is they go around telling everybody that they are against corruption. And when one of their MLAs and ministers accused of corruption is actually shame. But on a larger interest of the country, we have to look at the fact that when a government person in a government authority or a government position utilizes that advantage to accrue benefits using different members of his family. That's a grave crime as far as corruption is concerned and misuse of office. So I don't think it's political vendetta. I think it's more important for us to look at the pattern in which MLAs and ministers like Satyendar Jain actually misuse the office, and that's the crime. In fact, I remember very clearly when Satyendar Jain had come into Goa, he spoke about free electricity, anti-corruption. This is not anti-corruption. This is the height of corruption, where you misuse your office to actually accrue benefits to your family. And that's not fair to the people of Delhi, and therefore it needs to be investigated and it needs to be taken to the logical conclusion.
Right. Okay, if I go across to Professor Manojit Mandal first, and I'll go across to Abbas Haider next. Professor Mandal, as Savio is putting it, it is the misuse of the highest order when you're misusing the office of a public servant, and the Aam Aadmi Party should not be delaying this, and they should be sacking the minister.
I mean, it's amazing why the ED is selectively picking up only the opposition leaders. I'm naming. What about Mr. Yediyurappa in Karnataka? What about Mr. Shubhendu Adhikari in Bengal? There are cases pending against these two accused of corruption cases, money laundering by ED, by CBI. Nothing happens to them. What is the mystery? I don't understand. The mystery, the fact remains that whether it is ED, whether it's CBI, income tax, it's not just the wing of the government of India, it has become the long arm of the BJP. It's amazing in this country that only, quote unquote, first of all, Mr. Satyendar Jain is still not proven guilty, right? So let us not have the verdict on him. And second of all, even if prima facie there is a case against
have the others been proven guilty?
Cases against Shubhendu Adhikari, there are cases against
Professor Mondal, have the others been proven guilty?
Don't disturb me.
Professor Mondal,
There is
have the others been proven
Professor
guilty?
Mandal, you're saying this is selective. This is selective. The ED action is selective, but there's a paper trail. There is a paper trail, and that's why I'd like to go across to Harish Khurana, who's joining us from the BJP. It's very. The Enforcement Directorate has put it on paper, Harish Khurana, but Professor Mandal says it is a selective activity. It is selectively being done to the non-BJP ministers and people who are adversaries.
See, we should understand what the paper trail says. On 22nd of January, you remember Arvind Kejriwal himself said that this Satyendar Jain will be arrested by the ED because he knows it. The proofs which have been collected by ED is sufficient enough to get Satyendar Jain arrested. Jivesh Shah, who is a Hawala operator from Kolkata, has given in writing that he has given cash and Hawala operating to the shell companies of Satyendar Jain. It's on record. And since last 2.5 years, 3 years, this investigation was going on. So this arrest has not been happened overnight. This has been gone through a thorough investigation, and arrest has been made by when ED has thought now the time has come to arrest Satyendar Jain. They have arrested it. But Arvind Kejriwal also should answer this when he's going to sack this Satyendar Jain. Because few days before, he was the only one, he said, कि मेरे आँख में आंसू आ गए हैं. I have a zero tolerance policy in Punjab against corruption. But what about Delhi corruption? What about Satyendar Jain? One end, Vijay Singla, who is a health minister in Punjab, you took only 5 minutes to sack him. But what happened now? I mean, ED has arrested it.
Okay, so now this seems like a false cry. That is exactly what Harish Khurana is saying. I'll go across to Kapil Madan. I'll go across to Abbas Haider. Let me go across to Abbas Haider. Professor Mandal, I'll come back to you. But let me go across to Abbas Haider. It's very clear. BJP is saying that this is a false narrative. You want to go and say that you're acting against corruption, but first act against people who are there in your own party and who there are charges against Satyendar Jain. He's been arrested, but you haven't acted.
See, last month BJP Maharashtra President Chandrakant Patil threatened people in Kolhapur that he is going to set up a ED janch against those voters in Kolhapur. So I want to ask that, was he a minister? Was he the director of ED, or who was he? So Bharatiya Janata Party has been repeatedly doing these things against the opposition. They work for their political vendetta. Now the question is, listen to me. Will they set up a janch against, will they set up an inquiry against Hemant Biswa Sharma, for whom Bharatiya Janata Party released a booklet saying him the key suspect of water scam which happened in Assam during the Congress government? Is Bharatiya Janata Party going to sack him? Is Bharatiya Janata Party going to set up a ED inquiry or a CBI inquiry against him? When even US Department of Justice has charge sheeted that a minister has taken money from a company of USA. So even then Bharatiya Janata Party will pay no heed to such things. So this is a selective, what Mr. Mandal rightly said, this is a selective approach of Bharatiya Janata Party to target opposition parties. Now, if you will never ask Shivraj Singh Chauhan, you will never set up an inquiry against Yedurappa or Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank or any Bharatiya Janata Party leader. So this cannot go one way. You cannot be selective. If this is done
but Abbas, is this a wrong question to ask? Is this a wrong question to ask? Wouldn't you have done the same? Wouldn't you have asked the same question? The minister in question has been arrested by the Enforcement Directorate. We're not just talking about allegations. The ED makes an arrest. Do you think ED will only make an arrest based on the fact that one belongs to the other side of the political spectrum? Is that what you're trying to say, Abbas?
Well, why CBI did not furnish evidences against B.S. Yedurappa? That is the question. These agencies need their investigative agencies. They need to furnish evidences against the accused. So if they are not furnishing evidence against the accused of a ruling party, and they are furnishing evidences against accused of different opposition party,
Abbas, you're absolutely right. Now if you're saying it's selective, you have the right to call it selective, Abbas Haidar. But what I'm trying to say is, if there has been an arrest by the Enforcement Directorate, and I'm sure there is going to be more coming on that, because there's just been a press release by the Enforcement Directorate, there's going to be more. But what I'm trying to ask, if I could go across to Dr. Sumant C. Raman. Dr. Raman, is this the wrong question to ask? Because he has been arrested. There have been charges. There's a paper trail. There have been hawala transactions, and all this to prove Satyendar Jain's case, and that is precisely why he's been arrested.
Okay, about a year and a half ago, the total number of cases which had been filed in the last 5 to 6 years against the Aam Aadmi Party leaders, including 21 of their MLAs, was around 140 cases. Out of 140 cases, there was 1 conviction and 72 acquittals. How many acquittals? 72 acquittals, 1 conviction, and that was a person who was convicted of damaging public property and attacking the police or something.
No, but this case is different.
Conviction has happened. 38 or 39 are still pending in the court. So this is very likely to be more on the same lines of
Sucharita, I would like to rebut him here.
Look, the point is, if 140 cases and 73 of them are decided with 72 acquittals, I think that tells you what is the truth behind these cases which are being filed. More eloquently than any panel member, including me, can actually tell you. The data speaks for itself. Mr. Satyendar Jain was being very active in the Himachal Pradesh, state for the forthcoming assembly elections. Probably it was felt that he should not be allowed to be there and galvanize the Aam Aadmi Party. So perhaps this action, in fact, Mr. Kejriwal said it would be taken before the Punjab elections. So, in fact, he predicted it in January, saying that it will happen before the Punjab elections. So now, well, it has happened before the Himachal elections. So
you're trying to say that Satyendar Jain would have made this. Satyendar Jain was the key figure for Aam Aadmi Party in Himachal Pradesh, and to stop him from bringing about a change in Himachal, he has been arrested. Is what you're trying to say?
The Aam Aadmi Party is saying that. Aam Aadmi Party is saying that.
Okay, Karan.
And one more point. Can you kindly...
now that allegation doesn't come from Dr. Raman. That allegation comes directly from the Deputy Chief Minister. Manish Sisodia very clearly saying that the last 8 years, the ED has been calling him. They've been calling him for many years, but they couldn't find anything against him.
Sucharita, I am amazed. I am amazed how Mr. Suman is trivializing such a heinous crime. And let me tell you, I agree.
I'm coming to you, Mr. Swami, after this.
140 cases,
I agree. Sir, let me speak now. I wasn't interrupting when you were speaking. Sir, let me speak now, please. I was not interrupting when you were speaking. Let me draw your attention to the merits of this case, Sucharita, which everyone from the AAP side is trivializing right now as just any other case. The ED has already started attaching assets worth 4.81 CR. This is a case which was set in motion by an FIR filed by the CBI in 2017. Now, there is also an admission by the Hawala operators of Kolkata. There is a clear admission by the Hawala operator. There is a clear trail of money. There are shell companies involved, and anyone who has little knowledge of business knows what a shell company is, because they don't do anything. They're just meant for conducting money. And this is precisely what has happened, and ED has put that out in a statement. I can tell you this is a watertight case, and Satyendar Jain is in deep trouble. And I will tell you this, Arvind Kejriwal won't defend him beyond a point, because he knew the doors were closing on him from a long time. Satyendar Jain has been AAP's golden goose for quite some time. He's someone who was given all portfolios, because as the great point here in Delhi was, that whenever AAP needed to make a killing, Satyendar Jain was made the mascot of that department. And that is now all coming a full circle.
Okay, let me go across to, all right, Karan, I am going across to Atishi Singh. She's joined us from the Aam Aadmi Party. She's on the phone line with us. Atishi, my direct question to you is that Satyendar Jain has been arrested by the Enforcement Directorate, but the Aam Aadmi Party sees this as political vendetta?
See, this is very clear. This is an 8-year-old case. An 8-year-old case in which for many years ED had even stopped the investigation because there was nothing in the case. The allegation is of Hawala between 2015 and 2017. Mr. Satyendar Jain had resigned from these companies in 2013 itself. The person who was the owner of this company from 2015 to 2017 has accepted in court that he is the one who was doing Hawala. And since 2018 onwards, after calling Mr. Satyendar Jain for hearings multiple times, 2019 onwards, there has been no movement whatsoever in the case. In fact, we actually considered that probably they had shut down this case. Now, with Himachal Pradesh elections coming up, with Satyendar Jain being in charge of Himachal elections, with Aam Aadmi Party performing well in Himachal Pradesh, it is now very clear that BJP is getting jittery about their performance in Himachal Pradesh and wants to make sure that Aam Aadmi Party does not do well, and therefore they are trying to arrest the election in charge, Mr. Satyendar Jain.
Right. Atishi, because the BJP and the Congress is very clear, and they both seem to be on the same side that Satyendar Jain should either resign or he should be asked to step down.
If all Aam Aadmi Party MLAs and ministers against whom BJP's central government files cases were to resign, there would be no one left. Why? Because this is not just one case. This is one of the hundreds of cases that have been filed against Aam Aadmi Party's leaders, MLAs, ministers, be it in the Delhi Police, be it Income Tax Department, be it Enforcement Directorate. All agencies of the central government have been used by the Bharatiya Janata Party to target Aam Aadmi Party. And in the last 7 years, not one single case has stood the test of time. And all our ministers, all our leaders, all our MLAs have been released of all charges. And so this is exactly what is going to happen in this case. This is just a political stunt that is being pulled by the Bharatiya Janata Party because they are scared of what is going to happen in the Himachal Pradesh elections.
You think that the entire case that has been prepared by the Enforcement Directorate, because this comes after the CBI FIR, the entire case, because the Enforcement Directorate in its press release, the official press release says that there have been Hawala transactions and there have been shell companies and there have been money transactions through them.
These transactions are all between 2015 and 2017. Mr. Satyendar Jain had resigned from these companies in 2013 itself. The people who were the directors and the owners of this company between 2015 and 2017 have already accepted their crimes in the court of law. In 2018, Mr. Satyendar Jain was summoned 7 times in this matter, but nothing came of it. From 2019 onwards, he has not been summoned a single time. There has been no discussion whatsoever about this case. Why has this case been reopened now in 2022? It is because of the Himachal Pradesh elections.
Right. So, Atishi, I'll just ask you one last question. Now, since he's a minister, he's a key member of the party, now he has been arrested, what is the next plan of action for the Aam Aadmi Party? Because you're clearly saying there are no charges, you're clearly saying he's not involved, and it's an entirely fabricated case.
See, as every case we have seen, be it by the Delhi police, be it by the ED, be it by the CBI, no single case against any leader, MLA or minister of Aam Aadmi Party has been able to stand. All our MLAs, all our ministers have been freed of all charges in every case. This is exactly what is going to happen in this matter as well.
Thank you so much, Atishi, for speaking to us. Now, I would like to take this from where Atishi Singh has left. I will go across to Prakash Swamy. Mr. Swamy, Atishi is very clearly saying that if you were to believe on all the if everybody who has charges against them by the ED and by the CBI from the Aam Aadmi Party, if they were to step down, then the entire ministry would have to step down. It's the kind of cases that are being lashed against them.
We all know that politics and the corruption are like Siamese twins. Few parties like BJP are an exception. But I just want to tell you, when Arvind Kejriwal came into the scene, he came like a savior against corruption, against Congress corruption, BJP corruption, everybody's corruption. He has come straight from the heaven. But what is the reality is now, his own minister is being charge-sheeted. My good friend Raman suggested that 100 cases are filed, out of which 90 or 95 are acquitted. We cannot compare a petty pickpocket theft against murder for money. The nature of the case is, where all the 100 cases are enforcement cases, no. There may be some other cases unrelated. Again, my good friend from Aam Aadmi Party said, why it took so long a time? Do you know how long it took to frame charges in 2G scam? How many years it took to frame charges? The enforcement or the CBI cannot file in one day. They have their own time limit. They have their own way of investigating things. You cannot set a deadline that case should be completed within 1 month. So my question is that let's not politicize the enforcement agencies or the CBI who are here to stop the corruption charges. Every politician, for example, what happened to P. Chidambaram? Both he and his son were involved. And today Chidambaram filed a nomination for Rajya Sabha from Tamil Nadu saying it's a political vendetta. Everybody is saying it's a political vendetta. Then where is he? You abolish CBI, you abolish IB.
So from what Mr. Swamy is saying, Kapil Madan, that if you want to target the BJP, you start targeting the central agencies like the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate. And that is clearly what is happening. If a Satyendar Jain has been arrested, you don't start targeting the central agencies. They're doing their work.
Nothing to do with BJP. This has nothing to do with BJP.
Let me
BJP is not arrested him.
Now I'll ask a question here. Recently, there were reports where the BJP minister in Karnataka was seeking 40% commission, and one of the contractor committed suicide, and he blamed his suicide on that minister. Did you see an ED raid there? Did you see a CBI raid there? The answer is no. There are allegations against Yedurappa. Do you see a ED going to his door? Income tax going to his door? No. There were allegations against Himanta Biswa Sharma. Do you see ED knocking his door? No. There are allegations against Shivraj Singh Chauhan on the Vyapam scan. Do you see ED going there, CBI going there? No. I mean, it is absolutely, while, you know, investigating any offense is the prerogative of the government and the agencies, and they should investigate. But the point is, it is very, very clear that the investigating agencies are targeting only one side, and that is the opposite side of the BJP. And having said that, I'll ask questions to the Aam Aadmi Party also. Now, if you see, not a week ago, I think it happened last week only, where their health minister was seeking 1% commission. They did a public announcement and a press release, and they made that person resign. Now, why you have a different yardstick for a different minister? I mean, here is a case where Arvind Kejriwal, few months ago, mentioned that the ED may arrest Satyendar Jain. If you think and you had an apprehension that you will be falsely implicated, then perhaps you should have gone to the court and sought anticipatory bail. So you have not done that either. So I would raise questions both against the BJP. It is also correct that the BJP is using these agencies as an instrument of vendetta. And having said that, I would also ask question to the Aam Aadmi Party. If you think that your minister is clean, he had nothing, it is a, you know, he was falsely implicated, and he should have approached the court and sought anticipatory bail or, you know, quashing of this case. I'll ask questions to both the sides.
That's precisely, that's the question I asked Atishi. What is the party planning to do? If they are very, very openly saying it is political, it is selective, then what is the Aam Aadmi Party going to do against this? Because they need to speak up and they need to take this up very aggressively. I'm going to quickly slip into a short break, and because we're also expecting a press conference from Sanjay Singh, senior AAP leader, is going to be doing a press conference very shortly. We'll just quickly slip into a short break and we'll be back. So the question with which I left Savio, I need to come back to this. I need to come back to what Atishi said a few minutes back. I asked her what is the party intending to do now that the allegations are false, the narrative is false, it's a selective propaganda. What is the party planning to do? Because they need to take this up aggressively. And it's been happening. She's saying it's been happening for the last 8 years.
Are you asking me that question?
Yes, yes, Savio, please go ahead.
So, primarily what I think, Sucharita, the most important thing for us to understand, and I find it absolutely humorous, and I say that in all fairness, that I believe if there is an allegation of corruption, whether it's against a political leader from the BJP, whether it's a political leader from the AAP or the Congress or any other political party, especially if the person is sitting in a government office, then it's incumbent on the investigative agencies to investigate it thoroughly. Because like I said earlier, it is a bad example. It's a bad example to set to the people of the country. So today, we might try to brush it off and call it political vendetta. That's never going to change anything. It is, let's assume for a moment Congress is in power. Congress will also unleash the same thing. AAP is also doing that against many people on social media because they've got the police power in Punjab. So you can continue to make these allegations. It does not do anything for corruption. So when Aam Aadmi Party came out with the plank of anti-corruption, then what has happened to the anti-corruption plank? You might have cases that were minor, but the cases that were strong stood the test of time. That's why you had one conviction, as Mr. Suman had said. So the point is, here is an issue of corruption. Whether it is a political party or not, the job of the ED, the job of the CBI is to investigate it. Are the panelists around saying
8 साल पुराने एक फर्जी केस में गिरफ्तार किया है, जिस मामले में 1 नहीं, 2 नहीं, 7 बार वो ईडी के सामने पेश हो चुके थे, 7 बार। कभी ईडी को उनकी गिरफ्तारी की जरूरत महसूस नहीं हुई, कभी उनकी गिरफ्तारी नहीं की गई। और इसी मामले से जोड़कर सीबीआई ने एक मामला दर्ज किया था जिसमें सीबीआई ने कहा कि उनके पास कोई साक्ष्य नहीं, सत्येंद्र जैन को क्लीन चिट दिया। लेकिन जैसे ही सत्येंद्र जैन हिमाचल प्रदेश के इंचार्ज बनाए जाते हैं, वैसे ही भारतीय जनता पार्टी के पेट में दर्द शुरू हो जाता है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी हिमाचल प्रदेश में चुनाव हार रही है और इसी के कारण से सत्येंद्र जैन की एक फर्जी बेबुनियाद मामले में गिरफ्तारी की गई है। यह उनका उत्पीड़न है और यह भारतीय जनता पार्टी के काले चेहरे को फिर से एक बार उजागर करता है। ऐसे मामले में जिसमें सीबीआई की क्लीन चिट मिल चुकी है और इसी के कारण से सत्येंद्र जैन की एक फर्जी बेबुनियाद मामले में गिरफ्तारी की गई है। यह उनका उत्पीड़न है और यह भारतीय जनता पार्टी के काले चेहरे को फिर से एक बार उजागर करता है। ऐसे मामले में जिसमें सीबीआई की क्लीन चिट मिल चुकी है, आय से अधिक संपत्ति का मामला, और आप लोगों ने देखा होगा कि उस समय भी कितनी बड़ी बड़ी बातें भाजपाई चिल्ला चिल्ला के कर रहे थे। तो जांच एजेंसियों के दुरुपयोग का एक बार फिर से मामला सामने आया है। जल्द ही सत्येंद्र जैन छूटकर बाहर आएंगे क्योंकि यह एक बेबुनियाद, फर्जी, निराधार केस है। इसके साथ साथ मैं यह भी कहना चाहता हूं कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी ऐसे एक नहीं अनेक हथकंडे अपनाएगी, अपना ले। आम आदमी पार्टी हिमाचल प्रदेश का चुनाव मजबूती से लड़ेगी और बीजेपी हिमाचल में हार रही है, उसकी बौखलाहट है और उसी के कारण यह गिरफ्तारी की गई है। इसमें आपके कोई और प्रश्न हो तो मैं और विस्तार से आपको जानकारी दे सकता हूं।
अरविंद केजरीवाल ने बीजेपी में प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में कहा था कि ईडी सत्येंद्र जैन को गिरफ्तार कर सकती है, एजेंसियां कर सकती हैं। तो क्या इस मामले को लेकर आप लोगों को पहले से आशंका थी?
देखिए, ये पहली बार नहीं हुआ दिल्ली में। आपको याद होगा दिल्ली के मुख्यमंत्री के दफ्तर पे सीबीआई का छापा, उप मुख्यमंत्री के घर पे सीबीआई का छापा, हमारे मंत्रियों पे ईडी सीबीआई का छापा, हमारे 34 एमएलए को उठा के गिरफ्तार करके जेल में डाला। आम आदमी पार्टी को उत्पीड़न की एक नहीं 1000 घटनाएं झेलनी और बर्दाश्त करनी पड़ी है भारतीय जनता पार्टी के इस दुर्भावना की राजनीति के कारण, जांच एजेंसियों के दुरुपयोग के कारण। एक नहीं 1000 घटनाएं, और हर घटना में हम पाक साफ निकल के आए। हमारे तमाम विधायकों को कोर्ट ने बरी किया। हमारे तमाम मामलों में जांच एजेंसियों ने कहा कि नहीं, इनके खिलाफ तो कोई साक्ष्य ही नहीं। तुमको 8 साल से गिरफ्तारी की याद नहीं आई? ऐसी बड़ी एजेंसी ईडी चिल्लाते रहते हो। ऐसी जांच एजेंसी को तो बंद कर देना चाहिए जो 8 साल में एक मामले का निपटारा ना कर सके। 7 बार गिरफ्तारी, 7 बार पेशी हुई सत्येंद्र जैन की, तब गिरफ्तारी की जरूरत महसूस नहीं हुई। आज जब हिमाचल प्रदेश के इंचार्ज बना दिए गए सत्येंद्र जैन, जब बीजेपी हार रही है वहां पे, तो आप गिरफ्तारी कर रहे हो, ड्रामा नौटंकी कर रहे हो सिर्फ आम आदमी पार्टी को बदनाम करने के लिए। तो ये पहली बार हमारे साथ नहीं हुआ है, ये हमने बहुत बर्दाश्त किया है। पूरी की पूरी दिल्ली सरकार को पहले दिन से इसी तरह की अरेस्ट, इसी तरह की जांच एजेंसियां लगा के, इसी तरह की उत्पीड़न की कार्रवाई हमारे विधायकों के खिलाफ करके यही किया गया। एक दिन में 9 एफआईआर बाबा जी ने मेरे खिलाफ किया उत्तर प्रदेश में, 9 एफआईआर एक दिन में। राष्ट्रद्रोह का मुकदमा लगाया, 23 एफआईआर लिखी अब तक मेरे खिलाफ। चुनाव लड़ते नहीं हो, चुनाव से भाग जाते हो, हार का डर सताता है तो कुंभकर्ण की नींद से जागते हो, कहते हो अरे रे हिमाचल हार रहे, चलो सत्येंद्र जैन को अब गिरफ्तार करो 8 साल पुराने मामले में, जिस मामले में सीबीआई क्लीन चिट दे चुकी है। कह रही नहीं साहब हमारे पास तो कोई साक्ष्य नहीं है। तो मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं,
सत्येंद्र जैन को पहले भी ईडी ने इस मामले में कई बार बुलाया, पहले भी वो कई बार पेश हुए हैं, लेकिन उनको वापस भेज दिया जाता था। क्या आज ईडी ने सुबह ही उनको बुला लिया था, उसके बाद अचानक से कह दिया आप अरेस्ट?
देखिए, मैं यही तो आपसे कह रहा हूं, क्या आपको लगता है कि ऐसी जांच एजेंसी की हिंदुस्तान में कोई जरूरत है जो 8 साल में एक केस का निपटारा न कर सके? 8 साल लग जाए उसको एक केस का निपटारा करने में, और देश की अपने आप को सबसे बड़ी एजेंसी कहती है ईडी ईडी ईडी। 7 बार जिस आदमी की पेशी हुई, 7 बार, कभी आपको गिरफ्तारी की जरूरत महसूस नहीं हुई? कभी नहीं। और आप तब गिरफ्तार कर रहे हैं जब उनको आम आदमी पार्टी के मुखिया अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने हिमाचल प्रदेश का इंचार्ज बना दिया, जब उनकी खुद के नेता हिमाचल प्रदेश के शांता कुमार जी आम आदमी पार्टी की तारीफ करने लगे, हमारी कार्यप्रणाली की तारीफ करने लगे, बोले नहीं नहीं नहीं, ये तो ठीक नहीं है, इसी को पकड़ो जो इंचार्ज है। तो आज बुलाया था जांच के लिए, वो गए जांच में शामिल होने, कह दिया हम लोग जग गए हैं, अब चुनाव आ गया है, अब तुम्हें गिरफ्तार करेंगे। तो करिए। हम लोगों के साथ पहली बार तो ऐसा हुआ नहीं, ये बहुत बार हो चुका है। आज ही बुलाया था, आज ही बुलाया था, और जांच में बराबर सहयोग किया। 7 बार, मैं बता तो रहा हूं, 7 बार हाजिर हुए ईडी के सामने। 8 साल से ये मामला चल रहा है। आप लोग ईडी का नाम सुनते होंगे कि ईडी देश की सबसे मजबूत, शक्तिशाली भाजपा की जेबी संस्था है, और उस जेबी संस्था ने 8 साल लगा दिए एक मामले की जांच करने में।
जब भी एजेंसीज की बात आती है संजय जी, तो चाहे आम आदमी पार्टी हो, अपोजिशन पार्टीज हो, तो हमेशा पॉलिटिकल मोटिवेटेड या फिर वेंडेटा कहा जाता है। तो क्या अब ये वॉर ऑफ वर्ड फिर से शुरू हो जाएगा कि बीजेपी कहेगी नहीं एजेंसी?
वेंडेटा मैं थोड़ी कह रहा हूं, वेंडेटा तो वो खुद साबित कर दिए। बताइए आप, सीबीआई ने लिख के दिया कि नहीं दिया कि सत्येंद्र जैन के खिलाफ कोई साक्ष्य नहीं है? क्यों बदनाम किया सीबीआई ने सत्येंद्र जैन को? क्यों इतने दिनों तक जांच चलाई? क्यों इतने दिनों तक टीवी चैनल पे सत्येंद्र जैन के खिलाफ खबरें चली? क्यों चली? एक आदमी की जिंदगी खराब कर दी आपने, और आपके लिए तो कुछ नहीं, सब कड़वा कड़वा थू और मीठा मीठा गप। बाद में कह दिया साहब कुछ मिला ही नहीं। एक आदमी का मान मर्दन हो गया, उसकी जिंदगी खराब कर दी आपने, उसके परिवार का जीना हराम कर दिया, और फिर कह दिया नहीं कोई साक्ष्य नहीं है। 8 साल से आप जांच कर रहे हैं, 7 बार आप बुला चुके हैं, 7 बार पेशी करा चुके हैं, आपको कभी गिरफ्तारी की जरूरत नहीं महसूस हुई। आज आप कह रहे हैं नहीं नहीं हम तो गिरफ्तार करेंगे। ये जांच एजेंसी का दुरुपयोग नहीं है तो और क्या है? और मैं तो सवाल पूछ रहा हूं, 34 से ज्यादा एमएलएस को फर्जी मामलों में दिल्ली में गिरफ्तार करके जेल भेजा गया, जिनको बाद में कोर्ट ने बरी किया। और एक एक मामले अगर आप पढ़ेंगे तो लताड़ लगाई है दिल्ली पुलिस को, यानी कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी की कठपुतली को। तो आप कठपुतलियों के जरिए अपना खिलवाड़ कर सकते हैं, करिए खिलवाड़, लेकिन चुनाव आप हारेंगे हिमाचल में, जनता देख रही है आपको।
अब आगे आम आदमी पार्टी का क्या करते हैं?
अब आगे तय करेंगे हम लोग इसमें क्या कर सकते हैं, और कानूनी इसमें और क्या आगे कार्रवाई होगी। मैं सिर्फ इतना कह सकता हूं कि इस केस में जल्द ही वो छूट के बाहर आएंगे, क्योंकि एक फर्जी, बेबुनियाद, निराधार केस है।
तो क्या ये आपकी इमेज को टच करने के लिए भी किया गया, क्योंकि नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस पे आ गई आम आदमी पार्टी, पंजाब जीत चुके हैं?
ऐसे बचकाने प्रयास भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने एक नहीं अनेक बार किए हमारे खिलाफ। ऐसे बचकाने प्रयासों में भारतीय जनता पार्टी हर बार विफल होती रही है। तो इस तरह का बचकाना प्रयास उन्होंने फिर से किया है, फिर विफल होंगे।
So it's all being done for Himachal Pradesh is what Sanjay Singh had to say. Senior AAP leader, member of parliament, said very clearly that it's for the
पर है और हिमाचल के इंचार्ज बनाए गए हैं सत्येंद्र जैन जी, उनको बदनाम करने के लिए, उनका उत्पीड़न करने के लिए, आम आदमी पार्टी को बदनाम करने के लिए भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने अपने कठपुतली के जरिए ये कार्रवाई करवाई है। आपको मालूम होगा कि आय से अधिक संपत्ति के मामले में अभी सीबीआई ने उनको क्लीन चिट दी, इसी तरह के एक मामले में उनको क्लीन चिट दी गई। आप बताइए, ईडी दुनिया की, देश की इतनी बड़ी एजेंसी, उसको एक मामले का निपटारा करने में 8 साल लग गया।
ये क्यों कर रहे हैं?
मजाक खेल रहे हो?
ये दुरुपयोग क्यों कर रहे हैं?
दुरुपयोग बताया तो हिमाचल का चुनाव हार रहे हैं इसलिए कर रहे हैं।
लेकिन इन्फोर्समेंट डायरेक्टरेट ने सर इसमें एफआईआर रजिस्टर करी थी और इसमें बेनामी प्रॉपर्टी की भी बात करी थी, तो क्या?
अच्छा, आप बताइए, एक एफआईआर पे कितने दिन में कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए? एक एफआईआर के ऊपर कितने दिन में कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए, आप मुझे बताइए। 8 साल लगना चाहिए एक एफआईआर में कार्रवाई होने पे, और उसके लिए चुनाव का मौका देखा जाएगा। और 8 साल के बाद आप कुंभकर्ण की नींद जागेंगे कि ओहो हो साहब, अभी मैं कुंभकर्ण की नींद से जगा हूं, अब गिरफ्तार करना है क्योंकि हिमाचल का चुनाव है। आप बच्चा समझ रहे हो क्या? इस देश के लोगों को सब समझते हैं लोग।
लगातार वार और पलटवार शुरू हो जाते हैं जैसे ही एजेंसीज एक्टिव होती हैं।
हमारे साथ पहली बार नहीं हुआ है ना। मुख्यमंत्री के दफ्तर पे सीबीआई का छापा, उप मुख्यमंत्री के घर पे सीबीआई का छापा, तमाम मंत्रियों पे ईडी सीबीआई का छापा, 34 विधायकों को उठा के जेल में डाला, सोमनाथ भारती के कुत्ते को पकड़ने के लिए 40 पुलिस वाले भेज दिए थे। ऐसे काम करते हैं भाजपाई। मेरे ऊपर 9 मुकदमा एक दिन में लिखा, 23 एफआईआर की है बाबा जी ने यूपी के अंदर, राष्ट्रद्रोह लगाया। बताइए क्या करूं? तो जांच एजेंसियां उनके पास है, दुरुपयोग करने की स्वतंत्रता है, उनको कर रहे हैं दुरुपयोग।
एक आखिरी सवाल है बस, आगे क्या मूव रहेगा आम आदमी पार्टी का, क्या स्टैंड है?
इसमें जो कानूनी लड़ाई हमको लड़नी है वो हम लड़ेंगे, और मैं आपको विश्वास के साथ ये कह सकता हूं कि क्योंकि ये निराधार केस है इसलिए उनको जल्दी ही वो छूट के बाहर आएंगे।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद बातचीत करने के लिए। सो दैट वाज संजय सिंह टॉकिंग टू रिपब्लिक टीवी एक्सक्लूसिवली विद वीडियो जर्नलिस्ट रणवीर। आई एम मनोज एंड दिस इज रिपब्लिक।
Okay, so now let me quickly go across to my panelists because I have very little time left. Karan, as Sanjay Singh is saying, it's a false narrative only to defame. It's a completely false narrative, and which is being used by the BJP to defame.
Just give me a minute. I'll read out from the CBI's charge sheet. And Atishi also on your channel just said that these companies, Satyendar Jain had exited by 2013, and they've admitted to their wrongdoing, which they did in 2015-16. Let me read out CBI's statement quickly. Jain, this is CBI saying, Jain was a director in all these companies. He resigned from the directorship of these 3 companies before the election in 2013. His family, however, continued to hold shares in all 4 companies. Satyendra and Vaibhav Jain sent money to Rajendra Bansal, who in turn provided accommodation entries in the form of share application money in 4 companies. It came to light that Satyendra Jain's shares in Delhi-based companies were transferred to his wife's name, Poonam Jain, on 10th February 2015. So, even by Atishi Marlena's statement, even by Sanjay Singh's statements, these companies have owned up their wrongdoing, and Satyendra's family continues to hold shares in this. This is a watertight case. And number 2, Satyendra Jain is not such a big mass leader for crying out loud that BJP needs to put him down and they will lose Himachal if Satyendra Jain shows up. He can't draw such big crowds or rallies. They've got to be kidding themselves if they are portraying Satyendra Jain as such a big, massive mass leader. So the facts are totally against them, and this is a very serious case. No point crying political vendetta when the merits of the case are against you. That's not going to get you anywhere.
Right. So as Karan put it, and very clearly, Monojit Mandal, closing comment. Professor Mandal, closing comment. Is he that big a leader that BJP could lose Himachal?
CBI has given him clean chit in the same case, as clearly pointed out by Mr. Sanjay.
I just quoted CBI's charge sheet.
Then why is the ED now harassing him? It's a completely harassing narrative. Please stop now. Completely harassing proceeding instituted by CBI just to gain Himachal, Himachal Pradesh.
No, Professor Mandal. Would you agree with this that a Satyendra Jain in Himachal could cost BJP an election?
How can the ED
and that's precisely why he's been arrested? Would you buy this? Professor Mandal, would you buy this?
I mean, there is completely incompetent in that case. Is completely incompetent ED that only they wake up during the elections. I mean, this is amazing. And that too selectively against the opposition leader. Nothing is happening to Mr. Sharma.
Okay. So it's an ongoing case. It's been going on for some years, and now the Aam Aadmi Party very clearly saying that the Himachal Pradesh elections are at stake, and that is precisely why Satyendar Jain has been arrested, and the BJP clearly not buying that, and very clearly saying that it's a pending case, and there has been a paper trail, and there have been evidences, and that is why Satyendar Jain has been arrested. Thank you so much for joining us on The Burning Question.